No one could last a month with the rude CEO until the most stubborn girl walked in. Hello everyone! Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Emma Brooks took a deep breath as she entered the upscale restaurant, the hum of quiet conversations and the clinking of silverware filling the air. The lighting was warm and subdued, casting soft shadows on the polished floors. She had never felt more out of place. Her second-hand dress clung awkwardly to her frame, and her shoes were scuffed from too many shifts spent waiting tables. She glanced at her reflection in the window, trying to steady her nerves. I promised Jenny I would do this, she reminded herself, pushing the door open and stepping inside. As soon as she did, the cold hit her like a wave, a stark contrast to the cozy warmth inside. She walked past the host and scanned the room, looking for the man she was supposed to meet. Table S. Table S. She murmured to herself, heart pounding. Her eyes locked onto a man sitting alone at the back of the room. He was dressed sharply, his dark hair neatly styled, and his attention was focused on the screen of his phone. Emma took a deep breath, forced a smile, and approached him. Hi. You must be Kevin? I'm Emma. Nice to meet you. The man looked up at her, blinking in surprise. For a moment, neither of them moved. He hesitated, clearly unsure of what to say, and then responded, hi Emma. Emma, mistaking his confusion for shyness, slid into the chair across from him. She couldn't help but fidget nervously with the edge of her napkin. Oh, I know this is awkward, she said, forcing a laugh. Blind dates are weird, right? Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry. I can talk enough for both of us. The man's confusion deepened, but he simply nodded, giving her a faint smile. Right, blind dates are something else. Emma laughed, her nerves starting to ease. Tell me about yourself. I'm a waitress. Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them, anyway. What about you? I work in tech, he said, his voice low and careful. Tech? That's cool, Emma said brightly, trying to keep the conversation light. Like coding and apps and stuff? I'm terrible with computers, he smiled slightly, leaning back in his chair. Something like that. They both settled into a comfortable silence, Emma finding herself talking about her life as a waitress, her dreams of one day opening an art studio, and the struggles she faced just to make ends meet. To her surprise, he actually seemed interested. His responses weren't as stiff as she expected for someone in his position, and his presence, though silent, was strangely comforting. You're not what I expected, Emma said after a while, her tone thoughtful. Jenny said you were reserved, but you're actually easy to talk to. He chuckled softly, and for the first time, Emma noticed a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. You're easy to talk to too, he said, his gaze softening. Emma beamed at the compliment, feeling her nervousness slip away. Just as she was about to ask him more about his work in tech, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced down at the message from her best friend Jenny. Hey, Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin. Emma froze. Her heart sank. She looked up at the man across from her, cheeks burning with embarrassment. You're not Kevin, are you? She asked, barely above a whisper. He smiled, a mix of guilt and amusement in his eyes. No, I'm not. Emma stood up abruptly, her face turning bright red. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. She turned to leave, but the man quickly stood as well. Emma, it's okay. But she was already grabbing her coat, her face a fiery shade of red. She bolted for the door, not looking back. As she stepped out into the cool night, Liam Parker, because that's who he really was, watched her go, a strange feeling stirring in his chest. He hadn't expected to feel a mix of regret and curiosity over a simple misunderstanding. Why do I care? He wondered, as the door clicked shut behind her. Emma was back in her small apartment an hour later, sinking onto the couch with a groan. Jenny popped her head over the top of her laptop, grinning. That bad, huh? She teased. Emma groaned again. Worse. I sat at the wrong table, Jenny. I talked to some random guy, thinking he was Kevin. Jenny stifled a laugh. What happened then? Emma recounted the evening, her voice rushing out in a flurry of embarrassment. He was nice, really nice actually. Funny too. But then I realized he wasn't Kevin, and I ran out of there like an idiot. Jenny raised an eyebrow, a playful smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. Sounds like a rom-com setup. Emma buried her face in a pillow, wishing the ground would swallow her whole. I just hope I never see him again. But little did she know, fate had other plans. The next day, Liam Parker couldn't get Emma out of his mind. He had meant to correct her from the start, but there was something about her that felt different, something genuine. He didn't want to let it go, and as fate would have it, their paths would cross again in the most unexpected way. The following day, Emma was still cringing from the awkward encounter. She had never been one to make mistakes in front of strangers, especially not in a fancy restaurant. The embarrassment of sitting at the wrong table, mistaking a random man for her blind date, had plagued her all night. She hadn't expected it to matter much after all. She had no intentions of ever seeing that guy again. But somehow, as she sat at her kitchen table, nursing a cup of lukewarm coffee, his face wouldn't leave her mind. What was it about him, she thought, frowning as she stirred her drink absent-mindedly. She had barely been able to get his voice out of her head, his soft chuckle, the way he'd made her feel less nervous despite her blunder. Was it the way he looked at her when she apologized? Or the genuine smile he gave her when she made her nervous jokes? Either way, she hadn't expected that to happen, especially not from a complete stranger. What was worse, she hadn't even gotten his name. The thought of seeing him again made her stomach twist, but not in the way she thought it would. She wanted to run into him, to somehow make up for the mess she had made. But she knew that was unlikely to happen, or so she thought. A few days later, Emma's life took a surprising turn. She was working another shift at the diner when a group of regulars walked in, chattering away. The usual crowd, all too busy with their own conversations to notice her. She went about her work, refilling coffee mugs and making small talk as she went. When a voice called her name, "Emma?" She turned, half expecting it to be one of the usual customers. But instead, it was him, Liam Parker. She froze, feeling the heat rise to her cheeks. "I didn't think I'd see you again," she said, trying to act casual. "I didn't think I'd see you either," he replied with a wry smile. "But here I am." His eyes were warm, as if there was no awkwardness between them, despite what had happened the other night. He glanced around the diner, clearly not as comfortable in this setting as he had been in the fancy restaurant. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, gesturing to the empty seat at the counter. Emma hesitated for a moment, then nodded, motioning for him to take a seat. "Sure, go ahead." He sat down, and for a few moments, the two of them were quiet. It felt strange, the awkwardness returning like an old friend. But then Liam spoke again, breaking the silence. "I was thinking about you after our incident," he said, his smile growing. "I owe you an apology. I should have told you right away that I wasn't your date." Emma laughed softly, shaking her head. "I should have figured it out sooner. You look way too well dressed to be a guy named Kevin." Liam chuckled at that, and for a brief moment, Emma felt like she could breathe again. There was something disarming about him, something that made her forget, just for a second, that he was a wealthy businessman. "I get that a lot," Liam said with a shrug. "But I'm glad you didn't run away after the whole mix-up. I think you're the first person who didn't treat me like some stuffy CEO." Emma raised an eyebrow. "You're serious? Most people are dying to meet someone like you, aren't they?" Liam sighed, leaning back in his seat. "You'd be surprised. Most people are more interested in what I can give them than who I really am. But with you, I didn't feel like I was talking to someone who just wanted to get something out of me." Emma nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. No one could last a month with the rude CEO until the most stubborn girl walked in. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. I think I'd like to get to know you better." The words hung in the air between them, And for the first time since their awkward encounter, Emma felt her guard slip just a little. She had been so careful to keep her distance, to not let anyone in. But there was something about Liam, something she couldn't quite explain, that made her feel like it was okay to trust him. "You're not what I expected," she said softly. Liam raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "What did you expect?" he asked. Emma hesitated. "Honestly, I don't know," she admitted. "But I didn't expect you to be this. Well, kind." He smiled at that, a genuine smile, not the corporate grin he usually wore. "Kindness is hard to find," he said quietly. "And when you find it, you should hold on to it." They were quiet for a moment, the hum of the diner filling the space between them. Emma felt a strange sense of peace, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to see Liam in a different light. The way he looked at her made her feel like she wasn't invisible, like she mattered. And maybe that was the first step toward something more than just an awkward misunderstanding. It had been a few days since Emma and Liam had talked, but the memory of their conversation lingered in her mind. She had returned to her usual routine, working long shifts at the diner, keeping her head down and focusing on her goals. He was dressed sharply, his dark hair neatly styled, and his attention was focused on the screen of his phone. Emma took a deep breath, forced a smile, and approached him. "Hi, you must be Kevin? I'm Emma. Nice to meet you." The man looked up at her, blinking in surprise. For a moment, neither of them moved. He hesitated, clearly unsure of what to say, and then responded, Hi, Emma." Emma, mistaking his confusion for shyness, slid into the chair across from him. She hadn't heard from him since their last meeting, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he might still be thinking about her. Then one evening, after her shift, as Emma was walking back to her apartment, she felt a familiar presence approaching. She looked up to find Liam standing by his sleek black car, a hesitant smile on his face. "Hey," he said, his voice calm but full of intent. "Can we talk?" Emma stopped in her tracks, a mix of surprise and curiosity running through her. "Sure," she said, a little unsure of where this would lead. Liam motioned for her to walk with him, and they began strolling down the quiet street, the evening air cool but comforting. "I've been thinking about our conversation," he began, his voice soft, "and I wanted to apologize for not being more upfront with you." Emma turned to him, raising an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" she asked. "When we first met, I was too focused on keeping up appearances," he explained. "I've been so used to hiding who I really am, and I think I might have scared you off." Emma shook her head, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "You didn't scare me off," she said. "I just wasn't sure if you were being honest. I mean, you are a CEO, right? A big-time businessman. And I'm just—" She trailed off, not wanting to sound like she was making excuses. "Just a waitress?" Liam finished for her, his voice gentle. "I know the difference in our worlds is pretty obvious, but I don't care about that. I care about you, Emma. I want to get to know the real you. Not the version of you that people see when you're serving tables." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable, and it made Emma's heart skip a beat. She stopped walking, turning to face him fully. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because, honestly, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm not some businesswoman, I don't have a fancy lifestyle, and I don't know if I can fit into your world." Liam reached out, gently placing a hand on her arm, his touch warm and reassuring. "You don't have to fit into my world, Emma. You just have to be yourself. That's all I'm asking for." For a moment, they stood there, the sounds of the city humming quietly around them. Emma felt her resolve starting to slip, the walls she had built around herself beginning to crack. She had been so focused on protecting herself from getting hurt that she had closed herself off to the possibility of something real, something different. And now, standing here with Liam, she realized that maybe, just maybe, this was her chance to take a risk, to step outside her comfort zone. "Okay?" she said softly, looking up at him. "I'll give it a shot. But I don't want any more pretending. No more games." Liam's face lit up with a smile, his eyes sparkling with relief and joy. "No games, I promise," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I just want to see where this goes, with no expectations, no pressures, just us. And if it doesn't work out, then at least we'll know we gave it a real shot. Emma felt a surge of emotion, something she hadn't expected. She had never been one to take risks, especially not with her heart. But something about Liam's words made her feel like it was okay to trust again, like she didn't have to be afraid of getting hurt. "All right," she said, a smile tugging at her lips. "No more pretending." Liam stepped closer, closing the distance between them, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. "I'm glad you said that," he said softly, "because I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think I might be falling for you, Emma." Her heart raced at his words, and for a brief moment, everything felt like it had fallen into place. Emma looked up at him, her mind spinning with 1,000 thoughts. But one thing was clear: something real was starting between them, and she wasn't going to run from it. "I think I might be falling for you too," she whispered. The moment hung in the air between them, and as the city lights flickered around them, Emma realized that this was just the beginning. Maybe the differences in their worlds were vast, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that they were willing to try, willing to take a chance on something real. Days passed, and what started as a tentative connection between Emma and Liam grew into something stronger. They began spending more time together, taking long walks in the park, enjoying simple dinners, and even laughing over silly inside jokes that only the two of them understood. Despite their different worlds, they started to blend their lives in ways neither had expected. Liam would visit her at the diner, always ordering the same coffee, always asking how her day went. Emma, in turn, would visit him at his office, though she still felt a little out of place in the polished glass building, surrounded by suits and sleek furniture. But each time she stepped into his world, it didn't feel like a burden or a show. Liam made sure of that. He would never make her feel like she didn't belong. One evening, as they walked down a quiet street after another casual dinner, Emma looked up at Liam, feeling a sense of contentment she hadn't known in a long time. "I never thought I'd be here," she said softly, her voice almost lost in the soft murmur of the evening. "I mean, look at me. I'm a waitress, and you're, well, you." Liam stopped walking, turning to face her with a serious expression. "And what's wrong with that?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. "You're Emma. That's all that matters to me." She blinked in surprise at his words. "But don't you ever feel out of place? Like maybe you're settling for someone who doesn't fit in your world?" Liam shook his head, taking a step closer to her. "No, not at all. What I've realized is that no matter how different our lives are, it's the connection that matters. You're real, Emma. And that's something I've been missing." Emma felt a lump form in her throat, a wave of emotion she hadn't expected. She hadn't allowed herself to feel vulnerable in a long time, but with Liam, it felt different. He made it easy to just be herself. No pretense, no need to impress. "I don't know," she said quietly, looking away. "I've never really been able to trust people easily. Not after everything that's happened." Liam gently placed his hand on her arm, his touch soft but reassuring. "I understand," he said, his voice low and sincere. "But you don't have to carry that alone. You don't have to be afraid to trust me, Emma. I'm not like the others." She looked up at him, searching his eyes for any sign of deceit, but all she saw was honesty. "I'm not perfect," he continued, his voice steady. "But I want to be here for you. I want to prove that we can make this work, no matter the differences, no matter the challenges. I care about you, Emma. I want to see where this goes." Emma felt her heart swell at his words, but doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. "But what if we can't make it work?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "What if we're just too different?" Liam smiled softly, taking a step back and looking at her with a kind of calm certainty. "Then we'll deal with it, together, one step at a time. But I'm not giving up on us." Emma took a deep breath, feeling a weight she hadn't known she was carrying start to lift. For the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could take that step. She could take a chance on something real. "Okay," she said softly, her voice barely audible, but it was enough. "Okay, I'll try." They stood there for a moment, the world around them fading into the background as they shared a quiet understanding. Liam reached out, gently taking her hand in his grip warm and steady. "I'm glad," he said, his voice soft. "I'm really glad." The days that followed were a mixture of joy and uncertainty, the kind that comes with new beginnings. She'd met plenty of people like that, people who were only interested in her because she was waiting tables, and not for who she actually was. "I don't know," she said thoughtfully. I don't expect anything from anyone, especially not someone like you." Liam looked at her, his expression softening. "That's exactly why I wanted to talk to you again," he said. "I've met so many people, but none of them have been as genuine as you, and I think," but as the night of the event approached, she found herself thinking more about Liam's words, about how he had said she didn't need to fit into his world, just be herself. And so, she decided to give it a shot. She spent the day getting ready, choosing a dress she felt beautiful in, but still unsure of how she would fit in at the event. As she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the hem of her dress, she caught her reflection. She looked different, not just in the dress, but in the way she stood. She wasn't just Emma the waitress anymore, she was Emma, who had taken a leap of faith. When Liam arrived to pick her up, his jaw dropped at the sight of her. "Wow," he said, his voice low with admiration. "You look stunning." Emma blushed, feeling a little self-conscious. "Thanks," she said, but then added with a grin, "I just hope I don't embarrass myself at this fancy event." Liam smiled, stepping closer to her. "You could never embarrass me, Emma. You're perfect just the way you are." That night, as they arrived at the gala, Emma felt a wave of nerves hit her. She was out of her element, surrounded by people who seemed so polished, so confident. But when Liam's hand found hers, a sense of calm washed over her. He wasn't just her date. He was her partner, and no matter how different their worlds were, they were in this together. The night of the gala arrived, and Emma's nerves were at an all-time high. She had never imagined herself in a room like this before, surrounded by well-dressed strangers, the sound of soft classical music filling the air, the gentle clink of champagne glasses, and hushed conversations about high-stakes business deals and philanthropy. As they stepped into the grand ballroom, Liam squeezed her hand gently, offering a reassuring smile. "You're doing great," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the crowd. Emma managed a tight smile, though she felt out of place in the sea of elegant gowns and sharp tuxedos. It was a world so far removed from hers, a world she had never imagined stepping into. But here she was by Liam's side, his guest, and for some strange reason, she felt a sense of belonging, just for this moment. "You look amazing, by the way," Liam said, his eyes scanning her from head to toe with admiration. Emma felt the familiar heat rise to her cheeks. "Thanks," she replied, adjusting the strap of her dress nervously. "I feel a little like a fish out of water here." "You're not alone," Liam said with a chuckle. "Just stick with me, and you'll be fine." They moved through the crowd, Liam introducing her to a few of his colleagues, and Emma found herself more comfortable with each passing moment. There was something about being with him that made everything seem less intimidating. He wasn't just her date tonight, he was the man who had shown her that maybe, just maybe, she could belong in a world she had always believed to be out of reach. But as the evening wore on, Emma's thoughts began to wander. She couldn't help but notice the way the other women in the room looked at her, some with curiosity, others with subtle disdain. She could tell they weren't used to seeing someone like her in this world. She tried to shake off the feeling, but the whispers and the looks lingered in the back of her mind. Liam seemed oblivious to it all, his attention fully on her, making sure she was comfortable. But Emma knew she couldn't ignore the differences between them forever. The event was going well, and Liam seemed to be enjoying her company as much as she was enjoying his. But something in the back of her mind kept whispering, what if this isn't enough? What if she wasn't enough for him? Her thoughts were interrupted when the evening's host, a business partner of Liam's, raised a glass to make a toast. The crowd fell silent, all eyes turning toward him. Tonight, we celebrate not just our achievements, but the people who make those achievements possible, he said, his voice carrying through the room. We are fortunate to be in a position to help others and make a difference in the world. Here's to the future, to success, and to the people who support us along the way. The crowd raised their glasses in unison, and Emma glanced at Liam, who was already looking at her. His smile was warm, and for a moment, she felt like they were the only two people in the room. To us, Liam said quietly, lifting his glass to her. Emma smiled back, her heart skipping a beat. To us, she echoed softly, her gaze never leaving his. For that brief moment, surrounded by strangers and the pomp of the event, Emma felt like she belonged not because she had the right clothes or the right background, but because she had Liam by her side, and that was all that mattered. The night continued, and they danced under the sparkling chandeliers, their laughter mingling with the music. It was magical, more than Emma had ever imagined it could be. She had never been to a gala before, never thought she would, but now that she was here, with Liam, it felt like anything was possible. As the night drew to a close, Liam took her hand and led her outside into the cool night air. The city skyline stretched out before them, the lights of the city twinkling in the distance. "You did amazing tonight," Liam said, his voice full of pride. Emma laughed softly, the tension she had been carrying all night easing away. "I'm not sure about amazing, but I got through it," she replied. Liam turned to her, his expression serious. "You were incredible. I never thought I'd meet someone who could handle this world like you do." Emma felt a pang of doubt, the old insecurities creeping back. "But I'm not like them, Liam. I don't know if I ever will be." "You don't have to be like them," Liam said firmly, lifting her chin so she was looking directly into his eyes. "You're already perfect as you are, and that's all I need." Emma looked up at him, her heart full. She had never expected to find someone like him, someone who saw her, not for her circumstances, but for who she truly was. "I'm glad we met, Liam," she said softly, the words feeling more real than she could have imagined. "Me too," Liam replied, his hand gently brushing her cheek. "More than you'll ever know." In that moment, Emma realized that it wasn't about fitting into his world or changing who she was. It was about accepting each other, flaws and all. They weren't perfect, but maybe that's what made their connection so real. And with that thought, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope for the future, and the possibility of a life where love could truly conquer all. Weeks went by, and Emma found herself slipping into a rhythm she never thought possible. She had grown comfortable in Liam's world, yet she never let go of who she truly was. They continued to spend time together, sharing quiet mornings with coffee, late-night talks about everything and nothing, and moments of laughter that made Emma feel like she had finally found someone who understood her, really understood her. Still, a part of her remained guarded, unsure of how long this could last, and whether the world they lived in could ever truly merge. The pressure of being in Liam's world, the world of wealth, business meetings, and high expectations, felt heavy at times. Even though Liam never made her feel less than, Emma couldn't ignore the fact that she wasn't used to that life. She wasn't used to the luxury, the polished events, the constant buzz of high-profile meetings and social obligations. "About us. About where this is all going." Emma glanced up at him, her heart racing at the seriousness in his tone. "What do you mean?" she asked, unsure of what he was about to say. "I know this hasn't been easy for you," he continued, looking down at their intertwined fingers. "The whole adjusting to my world, the pressure, everything. And I just want you to know, no matter what, I'll always have your back." Liam studied her for a moment, his eyes narrowing with concern. "You've been distant lately. Is it about the gala?" "I know it was a lot to take in." Emma shook her head. "No, it's not that. The gala was great, honestly. But I don't know if I can keep up with this." She looked down at her hands, her fingers fidgeting nervously. "Keep up with what?" Liam asked, his voice gentle but steady. Emma sighed. "This whole world, the people you interact with, the constant pressure to be someone I'm not. It's like I'm pretending to fit in, and I don't know how long I can keep that up." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "I'm just scared, Liam. Scared that maybe I'm not enough. That one day you'll wake up and realize that I'm just not the person you need." Liam's heart ached at her words. He reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his touch warm and steady. "Emma," he said, his voice filled with tenderness, "you don't have to be anyone other than who you are. I'm not asking you to change. I never have. I care about you, the real you, not the person you think you need to be to fit in." He squeezed her hand. "You've always been enough, Emma. You're perfect just the way you are." Emma felt a lump form in her throat as the weight of his words sank in. She had spent so much time trying to be something she wasn't, trying to convince herself that she could keep up with the world around her, that she hadn't realized the most important thing was just being true to herself. "But what about your world?" she asked softly. "What about the expectations? The people who think they know what's best for you?" Liam smiled, his eyes filled with affection. I've spent my whole life trying to meet other people's expectations. But the only expectation that matters now is mine, and that's to be happy, to be with someone who makes me feel real, someone who makes me laugh, and who doesn't care about the suit I wear or the meetings I attend. Emma smiled at that, her heart lifting a little. I never thought someone like you would say that, she whispered. I always thought I had to be more, that I had to fit into some perfect mold to be worthy of someone like you. That's the thing, Liam said softly. You're already worthy. You've always been worthy, just by being yourself. Emma's heart fluttered in her chest, and she finally allowed herself to believe him. Maybe this was the turning point. Maybe she didn't have to carry the weight of her doubts anymore. Maybe, just maybe, she could let herself be loved for who she was. They finished their lunch in comfortable silence, the weight of the conversation lifting as Emma's mind began to settle. She realized that she didn't have to have everything figured out. She didn't need to have all the answers right now. She just needed to trust in herself, in Liam, and in the connection they had. As the days passed, Emma began to let go of her fears, slowly but surely. Liam never wavered in his support of her, always encouraging her to be herself, to follow her dreams, to take risks. One evening, as they sat together in their living room, Emma rested her head on Liam's shoulder, a peaceful smile on her face. I can't believe how far we've come, she said softly, her fingers tracing the outline of his hand. Liam kissed the top of her head, his voice full of quiet certainty. I always knew we'd get here, he said, his words simple but profound. You're everything to me, Emma, and I'll never stop choosing you. Emma closed her eyes, her heart full. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's connection deepened in ways neither of them had expected. They had grown closer, learning more about each other with every passing day, and Emma had begun to open up in a way she hadn't in years. She had always kept herself at arm's length, afraid of getting hurt. But with Liam, everything felt different. He was patient, understanding, and, most importantly, he saw her for who she truly was, not the version of herself she had to pretend to be for others, but the real Emma. It felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to dream about a future with him. One evening, while they were walking through the park, Liam took her hand in his touch warm and comforting. I've been thinking, he said, his voice filled with hesitation. He wasn't just her date tonight, he was the man who had shown her that maybe, just maybe, she could belong in a world she had always believed to be out of reach. But as the evening wore on, Emma's thoughts began to wander. She couldn't help but notice the way the other women in the room looked at her, some with curiosity, others with subtle disdain. She could tell they weren't used to seeing someone like her in this world. Emma felt a surge of emotion, her heart swelling with a mixture of gratitude and love. Liam, you don't have to worry about that, she said softly. I know it's been hard, but I'm getting used to it. It's not about fitting into your world, it's about being with you. Liam stopped walking, turning to face her fully. He cupped her face in his hands, his eyes filled with sincerity. I know, but I still feel like I'm asking a lot from you, he said, his voice low. I want you to be happy, Emma. And as much as Liam reassured her that none of that mattered, the doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. One day, while they were having lunch at a small cafe in the city, Liam could sense that something was off. Emma had been quiet, her eyes distant, her mind clearly elsewhere. He put down his coffee and leaned forward, his gaze filled with concern. Emma, he began softly, is everything okay? She blinked, startled, then forced a smile. Yeah, I'm fine. Just thinking. I'm not going anywhere, Emma, he promised, his voice warm and full of emotion. I'm here, for as long as you'll have me. Emma closed her eyes, letting herself melt into his embrace. She had spent so much of her life pushing people away, afraid to let anyone get too close. But with Liam, everything felt different. He wasn't asking her to change. He wasn't asking her to be someone she wasn't. He just wanted her, and that was more than she had ever hoped for. I don't want you to feel like you're losing yourself in this. If that means stepping back or slowing things down, I'll respect that. Emma shook her head, her heart aching at the thought of pulling away from him. No, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't want to step back. I want this, Liam. I want you. Liam's eyes softened, and he pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly as if he was afraid she might slip away. Emma was nervous, unsure of what to expect, but Liam reassured her that it would just be a casual get-together with some of his colleagues. "Just come with me," he said, his smile warm. "It's not going to be anything fancy, I promise." When they arrived, Emma was surprised by how down-to-earth the event was. There were no fancy dresses, no tuxedos, just a few people standing around, chatting and enjoying each other's company. Liam introduced her to several of his colleagues, and Emma quickly realized that this wasn't the high-pressure world she had feared. These people were kind, down-to-earth, and genuinely interested in getting to know her. As the evening went on, Emma found herself more relaxed, laughing with Liam and his colleagues, enjoying the simple pleasure of being with him. She didn't feel like an outsider anymore. She felt like she belonged. As the night drew to a close, Liam pulled her aside, his expression serious but soft. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice quiet, "about how lucky I am to have you in my life." Emma smiled, her heart fluttering at his words. "You've been saying that a lot lately," she teased, though she could feel the sincerity behind his words. "It's true," Liam said, taking her hand in his. "You make me a better person, Emma, and I know we still have a long way to go, but I want you to know that I'm all in. I'm not going anywhere." Emma felt a rush of emotion, her heart swelling with love for him. "I'm all in too," she said softly, her voice steady and full of conviction. "I'm ready for whatever comes next, as long as we're together." Liam smiled, pulling her into a gentle kiss. For the first time in her life, Emma felt certain. She had found someone who accepted her, flaws and all, and who loved her for who she was. And with Liam by her side, she was ready to face whatever the future held. As the weeks went by, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to flourish, growing stronger with each passing day. They had faced challenges, moments of doubt, insecurities about their future, and the pressures that came with their vastly different worlds. Yet, despite the differences, they had found something real, something that made every obstacle worth overcoming. Emma no longer felt the need to pretend to be someone she wasn't. She no longer worried about not fitting into Liam's world. She was herself, unfiltered and authentic, and Liam loved her for it. And in return, she loved him more than she ever thought was possible. One evening, after a long day, Liam invited her to dinner at his favorite restaurant. It was a quiet spot, tucked away in the corner of the city, known only to a select few. The kind of place where the ambiance was cozy, the lights dimmed low, and the food was exquisite. As they sat across from each other, their conversation flowed effortlessly, the familiar rhythm of their talks easing any tension. "I've been thinking," Liam said, his voice soft but serious, "about the future, about us." Emma looked at him, curiosity peeking in her gaze. "What about us?" she asked, her heart fluttering slightly in anticipation. "I know we've been through a lot together," Liam continued, his eyes searching hers. "And I know we've both had our doubts and fears, but I can't ignore what I feel for you anymore. I don't want to wait any longer to make this real." Emma's heart raced as she tried to process his words. She had no idea where this was going, but she couldn't help the smile that tugged at her lips. "What do you mean by make it real?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's gaze softened, his hand reaching across the table to take hers. "I mean, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Emma," he said, his voice steady and filled with emotion. "I want to build a life together. I don't want to just keep going day by day. I want us to make something permanent." Emma blinked, her breath catching in her throat. "Liam," she whispered, her mind racing. She had never imagined that this moment would come so soon, that someone like him, someone so incredibly successful, so accomplished, would want to make a permanent commitment to someone like her, someone who had never dreamed of a fairy tale life. "I know it's a big step," Liam continued, squeezing her hand. "And I know we still have a lot of growing to do, but I'm all in. I want you to be my partner, Emma, not just for now, but for the rest of our lives." Emma felt a rush of emotions flood through her. Her first instinct was to pull away, to doubt the sincerity of his words, but she knew deep down that this was different. She had never felt more sure of anything in her life. This wasn't some fleeting romance, some passing fling. It was real, deep, and life-changing. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice shaky. "I don't want you to feel like you're trapped in something you didn't sign up for." Liam smiled softly, his eyes never leaving hers. "I've never been more sure of anything," he said. "You're the one I want to build my life with. I've always known that, even when we were just getting to know each other. You've become my best friend, my partner, and the love of my life. I want you by my side, Emma, through everything." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, but she blinked them away, overwhelmed by the sincerity of his words. She had never imagined that love could feel like this, so certain, so unwavering. "I feel the same way," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know where this is going, but I'm willing to take that step with you." Liam's smile deepened, and he gently pulled her hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her fingers. "You won't regret it," he said softly. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of laughter, quiet moments, and tender glances. They didn't need grand gestures or flashy declarations. They had something that was built on honesty, trust, and love. When they left the restaurant, the city's lights shimmered around them, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The following weeks were filled with small, everyday moments, cozy mornings together, quiet evenings curled up on the couch, and deep conversations about their hopes, their dreams, and their future. Emma no longer felt out of place in Liam's world, and she knew that they had found a balance that worked for both of them. They were building a life together, one step at a time. But it wasn't just about the big moments. It was about the little things, the way Liam made her laugh when she was stressed, the way he supported her dreams and encouraged her to chase them, and the way he made her feel like she was enough. They were growing, not just as a couple, but as individuals, supporting each other through everything life threw at them. And in that, Emma found a peace she hadn't known before. She was no longer afraid of the future, no longer afraid of the unknown, because, with Liam by her side, she knew she could face anything. And maybe, just maybe, their story was only just beginning. Months had passed since Liam and Emma had decided to take the plunge together, committing not just to a relationship but to a future. They had faced challenges, no doubt moments of uncertainty, small arguments about their different worlds. But every time they stumbled, they managed to pick each other up. What they had was built on a foundation of trust, respect, and the undeniable love that had blossomed between them. One day, as they were sitting in their favorite cafe, sipping coffee and chatting about their plans for the weekend, Liam looked at Emma with a gentle expression. "I've been thinking about something," he said, his voice calm. But there was an intensity to it that made Emma pause. "What's on your mind?" she asked, feeling the familiar flutter in her chest at the seriousness of his tone. "I want to take this to the next level," he said, his eyes locking with hers. "I don't want to just be with you for now. I want to be with you forever. I want us to build a life together, in every sense of the word." Emma's heart skipped a beat as the weight of his words sank in. She had never imagined that this moment would come so soon. But the truth was, she had been feeling the same way. She had always been afraid of commitment, of getting too close. But with Liam, everything felt different. "What do you mean, Liam?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her emotions swirling inside her. Liam smiled softly, taking her hand in his thumb gently rubbing the back of her hand. "I've been so used to hiding who I really am, and I think I might have scared you off." Emma shook her head, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "You didn't scare me off," she said. "I just wasn't sure if you were being honest. I mean, you are a CEO, right? A big-time businessman, and I'm just—" She trailed off, not wanting to sound like she was making excuses. "Just a waitress?" Liam finished for her, his voice gentle. "I don't know what to say," she said softly, her voice trembling. "You've already said everything," Liam said, his tone full of affection. "I just wanted you to know that I'm serious about this. I want you by my side for all the years to come. I know it won't be perfect, but I promise it will be real." Emma felt tears well up in her eyes, and before she knew it, she was smiling through them, a smile that came from the deepest part of her heart. "But the only expectation that matters now is mine, and that's to be happy, to be with someone who makes me feel real, someone who makes me laugh and who doesn't care about the suit I wear or the meetings I attend." Emma smiled at that, her heart lifting a little. "I never thought someone like you would say that," she whispered. "I always thought I had to be more, that I had to fit into some perfect mold to be worthy of someone like you." From that day on, they began planning their future together, not in some far-off, distant way, but in real, tangible steps. They moved into a home together, one that was filled with warmth and laughter, a place where they both could feel safe, loved, and at home. Emma never felt out of place anymore, not in Liam's world, not in her own. She realized that she had never truly been out of place. She had just been afraid to let herself be truly seen. And now, with Liam, she didn't need to be afraid. They started to travel, to explore new places together, creating memories and experiences that would last a lifetime. With each new adventure, Emma's love for Liam grew deeper, stronger, and more assured. But more than the big moments, it was the little things that mattered the most, the way Liam would make her coffee in the morning, the way they would laugh about the smallest things, the way they would share their dreams for the future. One evening, as they sat together in their living room, Emma rested her head on Liam's shoulder, a peaceful smile on her face. "I can't believe how far we've come," she said softly, her fingers tracing the outline of his hand. Liam kissed the top of her head, his voice full of quiet certainty. "I always knew we'd get here," he said, his words simple but profound. "You're everything to me, Emma, and I'll never stop choosing you." Emma closed her eyes, her heart full. "And I'll never stop choosing you, Liam," she whispered back. In that moment, they knew that no matter what came their way, they would face it together. Their love was not built on grand gestures or fleeting moments. It was built on the small, everyday acts of care and devotion that made them stronger with each passing day. And as they sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, Emma realized that their story was just beginning. When they left the restaurant, the city's lights shimmered around them, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The following weeks were filled with small, everyday moments, cozy mornings together, quiet evenings curled up on the couch, and deep conversations about their hopes, their dreams, and their future. Emma no longer felt out of place in Liam's world, and she knew that they had found a balance that worked for both of them. Follow Emma, a waitress who unexpectedly finds herself falling in love with a successful millionaire, and explore how their worlds collide in a beautiful blend of love, commitment, and personal growth. As Emma navigates the challenges of adjusting to Liam's high-powered life, she discovers that love isn't about fitting in. It's about being true to yourself. Join them on their journey, from their initial awkward meeting to building a life together, as they face their doubts, insecurities, and dreams of a future. This millionaire story is filled with tender moments, emotional turning points, and a love that overcomes the odds. If you're a fan of romance and millionaire stories that show the depth of human connection, this narrative will inspire you to believe in the power of love and authenticity. Discover how their bond grows stronger with each passing day and how they build a future based on trust, understanding, and unwavering support. With real-life challenges and a touch of fantasy, this is one of those millionaire stories that will make you believe in the magic of true love. Watch as Emma and Liam's love story unfolds, a testament to the power of love, commitment, and the shared desire to build a life full of happiness and meaning. Dive into this unforgettable journey of love in a world of contrasts and discover why this is one of the most touching millionaire stories you'll hear.